Well, hello, I'm Rocken Locken coming to you from the Oregon coast, checking out the sun. Yep, fun, hot fun in the springtime, I guess you might call it. Yeah, checking our star family, looking around, seeing what's going on. As these dimensions bleed through, and we've got a lot of photos over on my Facebook page. We call it the Mothership, the Pleiadian and Angelic Rainbow Orbs page. Um, we're finding a lot of photos, by touching them up a little bit, there's beings and portals peeking through in these skies. Yeah, it's really phenomenal. I've got photos of it, and it's weird how I discovered it. Um, I've noticed it before, and then today I was looking at a Merkaba, one of the light code Merkabas, and I was just taking and I put the highlighter on just the head of it, way down on the ground, trying to lighten it up, just a little tiny spot. It's a big photo. And then once I did that, the way up in the sky, the blue cleared out, and then there was this big blue being looking down, and he looked like the same being that was in the Merkaba. So, and that's really nothing new for us. It just was interesting to see this one. But, Kirsty Crawford, who's a really a phenomenal young lady, um, she has photos that you can track these Arcturian ships, Merkabas, coming down to Earth, and sometimes even humans get out of them, human-looking people. These particular ones that I saw were from Andromeda. Of course, it's this same thing. Um, their DNA was the exact same blueprint when they were first seeded by a collective of different kinds of humanoids from we don't know where, several galaxies away. Anyway, they settled both Andromeda and the Arcturian galaxy, and which the Arcturians got gypped. How come they didn't call it the Arcturian galaxy? Andromeda got one of their own. But anyway, nevertheless, okay, so they were the chosen ones in the chosen galaxies. They had many, 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 before they realized they were the same exact people, they had many, many wars with each other, many galactic wars. And I'm talking, before most of these star races you've heard of were even in existence, okay? The Lyrans and the Vegans were probably in their infancy, maybe when the last of that war was going on. But yeah, they warred with each other. They both came up as human societies too and had to evolve. And, and that's just how it went. And finally they figured out, hey, they're us. It took them a long time to figure that out. So that's a little bit of history there. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that at another time, that Andromedan, um, Arcturian intergalactic war they had, many of them actually. And like I said, before any of the star races like Pleiades or Sirius or Procyon, any of those had came about yet. Yeah, very fascinating. The extraterrestrials, and I've said it a million times, I channel 39 different collectives, or I have. And, when you talk with these star races, of course, some of them are in excess of a million years ahead of us. The Arcturians, they could be a billion years ahead of us. Here's the deal, though. I spoke with the Galactics for years and years and years, the collectives I've channeled. I don't really ask them anything anymore, although I could if somebody has a question, because they deal in parallel realities. I've said that a million times. They can give you 6 or 7 great answers, but you can figure that out on yourself. But meanwhile, I picked their brain about galactic history, and we finally got some results after like 15 years. But they don't know a lot more. Even those races that are a million years ahead of us, they don't know a lot more than we do. They know that we're all oneness with the creation of Source. Of course, they know that. Yeah, but what they're not sure of, much more than we are, is where we came from. Before here and before that and before that and before that. Right? They're not sure. So they finally figured it out in the channeling, and it's a long story. I've talked about it, who these people were that settled the entire galaxy. Okay, it was circa a quintillion years ago. But they don't know between step A to Z. They don't know a whole hell of a lot more than we do, though. And that's the thing. Time is endless, right? And it never began, it never ended. So I always tell people that history goes back so far that you couldn't say it in a whole lifetime, the number. You couldn't utter it out, yet it happened a billionth of a second ago. It started. It's infinite. It's so mind-boggling, but not really.